Okay, so today we're diving into a really fascinating set of ideas from our source material. We're going to talk about a theory that claims there's a direct line connecting the particles inside your banana, the bricks that build our homes, and, well, the entire planet. It's a huge idea that tries to tie everything together. So let's jump in. So let me ask you this. What if these three things, subatomic particles, ancient history, and a banana, weren't random at all? What if they were all just pieces of the same giant puzzle? Yeah, it sounds pretty wild, right? But stick with me, because we're going to walk through exactly how the source material claims all these dots connect.
All right, so first up, a theory of everything? To even begin to get our heads around this, we have to start at the foundation. And that's this really ambitious attempt to create a single, unified model for, well, pretty much everything.
The name the source gives this whole worldview is Philfology, or Philfo for short. And you can kind of see what they're doing with the name, right? It's squishing together philosophy, which they link to physics, self for biology and psychology, and ology for sciences like chemistry. The whole point is to stop seeing these as separate boxes and start seeing them as one big, integrated thing.
Okay, so what's the glue that holds all these fields together? Well, according to this theory, it's a force or process they call cymatics. Now, the text is a little abstract here, but it kind of paints a picture of cymatics as this sort of universal vibration. It's the hidden hum that connects everything, the force that lets physics, biology, and chemistry all talk to each other.
And this quote from the text really drives home just how big they're thinking. It's not just about those three big sciences. The Philco model wants to use cymatics to pull everything, from the rocks under our feet to the thoughts in our head, into this one single, interconnected web of knowledge.
Okay, so that all sounds pretty high level, right? A grand theory of everything. But how does it actually work in the real world? Well, the source material gives us a super concrete example, trying to link the tiny invisible world of particles to something you could literally hold in your hand.
And the starting point for this whole example is a pretty common element, potassium, specifically a version of it that's naturally a tiny bit radioactive, an isotope called potassium-40. So the source breaks it down into this simple four-step chain of events. 1. You start with potassium-40, which just naturally decays over time. 2. When it decays, it spits out this teensy little particle called a neutrino. 3. The atom that's left over isn't potassium anymore. It's actually been transformed into calcium-40. And here's the kicker, step 4. This specific calcium is supposedly the key ingredient for making traditional calcium lime, also known as Chuna. So, get this, a process happening at the subatomic level ends up creating this super practical material. The text claims this lime is the secret sauce for making things like renewable bricks and blocks. And it doesn't stop there. They also say it's amazing for farming and gardening. You can use it to improve the soil, and it's even said to have antiviral uses.
And this is where it all comes full circle, right back to our banana at the beginning. The source material actually coins a term for foods that are packed with this potassium-40. They call them Neutrino Foods. And just like that, this wild subatomic physics thing is connected directly to what's on your kitchen counter.
And yep, here they are, according to the text. Your morning banana, avocados, tomatoes, beans, even milk. The argument is that all of these foods are basically tiny natural neutrino factories. That whole potassium to calcium decay process, it's not just happening in some far-off physics lab. It's happening right there in your fruit bowl.
So we've just followed this thread from a particle inside a banana all the way to a building brick, which is a pretty big leap, right? But the source argues this interconnectedness doesn't stop there. It just keeps scaling up, suggesting that the same principles that govern particles also govern us and our entire planet. Which brings us to the next big idea, the human microcosm. Now, this is where it gets really mind-bending. The Philfo model draws these direct one-to-one analogies. It says a volcano erupting isn't just like hypertension in the human body, it follows the same fundamental rules. An earthquake isn't just like a stroke, it's a manifestation of the same underlying forces. The implication is wild. The human body is a perfect miniature Earth.
And they take this analogy even further. The source actually defines the human body as a bioaccelerator. So think about a giant particle accelerator like CERN, smashing atoms together. Well, the idea here is that our bodies are doing something conceptually similar, just, biologically. We're constantly taking in cosmic particles, like those neutrinos from our food, and processing them on a biological scale.
This whole human-Earth connection is just one piece of an even bigger framework the source calls the 5D Earth model.
In this model, you've got your familiar 4 dimensions, and then you add a 5th one, which the text links to things like acceleration and momentum. It's this conceptual layer that's meant to tie everything together, showing how everything is in a constant state of motion and transformation.
So where does all this lead? I mean, a 5D Earth model, bioaccelerators? What's the point? Well, the source material uses this whole framework not just as a cool theory, but as a practical blueprint for creating what it calls a truly sustainable and renewable world.
So to frame the solution, the text starts with a critique of our current system. It argues that we're basically building our world with things that are designed to lose value. Our whole economic model is based on this cycle of depreciation and eventually disposal. It's a system built on value loss.
I mean, think about it. You buy a car, a building, a piece of electronics. You invest all this money, and in 15 or 25 years, what's it worth? Practically nothing. The source argues this isn't an accident. It's a feature of the system, not a bug. It's built on designed obsolescence.
So the source then contrasts this with a renewable mindset. Instead of just burning agricultural waste to ash, which completely destroys its value, the text proposes converting it to things like biochar. That way, you're actually recycling that value and putting it back into the earth. It's a shift from destroying value to preserving and reinvesting it.
And here's the ultimate payoff. The argument is that embracing a renewable economy built from materials like that special calcium lime we talked about is way more than just an ecological choice. It's presented as a direct economic strategy. It's a way to build lasting wealth because you're creating a system where things hold their value instead of being designed to lose it.
This quote really just captures the entire worldview in a nutshell. It's this vision of a future where we stop trying to conquer nature, and instead we just focus all our energy on understanding how it works, how it manages to be perfectly efficient with absolutely zero waste. It's a system where we prosper because we're in harmony with the planet.
And that really brings us to our final question. We've gone on this wild ride from the decay of a single atom in a banana all the way to a global economic model. The source material is basically asking us to imagine a world where the lines we draw between things like physics, ecology, and even our own bodies just aren't there anymore. What if it's all one unified system? It's a pretty compelling thought to leave you with.